Welcome to Void Case Files. Before we descend into tonight's darkness, I need to ask something of you. Hit that subscribe button. We're pushing toward 1,000 subscribers by the new year, and with your help, we'll get there. We're posting daily videos, bringing you the most chilling, unexplained case files from the shadows of our world. Now let's begin. What if the Earth held secrets so profound they could rewrite history and unleash primal fear? A Yosemite Ranger's routine survey just opened a Pandora's box, a living, petrified forest, pulsating with an ominous energy in untouched caves. This isn't just a discovery, it's a chilling warning, a threat from Earth's deep past poised to emerge. This is the testimony of Ranger Katherine Winters, a third-generation park ranger with 12 years of service in Yosemite National Park. Her great-grandmother was Clare Marie Hodges, the very first female ranger to ever patrol these mountains back in 1918. What Kate found beneath Sunrise High Sierra Camp would connect her to a legacy of silence that had protected and imprisoned countless souls for over a century. Friday, July 17th, 2023, the 42nd anniversary. Kate stood at 9,400 feet, where the air turns crystalline and every sound carries for miles. Sunrise High Sierra Camp stretched empty before her, cabins dark and locked for the off-season. She was alone with the granite peaks and the weight of memory. The photograph in her jacket was creased from years of handling. Clare Marie Hodges, 1918, the first woman to wear the Ranger's badge, the same sharp eyes, the same stubborn jaw. Family resemblance ran deeper than features. It ran through choices, through the compulsion to protect these mountains no matter the cost. Kate pulled up the case file on her tablet, not part of her official duties, but a personal ritual she'd maintained for 5 years. Stacey Ann Arras, 14, July 17th, 1981, disappeared during a 4-day mule trip with her father and 6 others. The group had stopped here, at these very cabins, to rest. Stacey wanted to photograph Sunrise Lakes just a mile and a half away. A 77-year-old man named Gerald Stewart offered to accompany her. After a short walk, Gerald grew tired and sat on a boulder to rest. Stacey continued alone, promising to return quickly. She walked toward the tree line, camera bouncing against her chest. 42 years later, she was still walking. 150 searchers combed the area for 9 days. They found a camera lens on the trail, nothing more. No blood, no torn clothing, no body. The forest had simply swallowed a teenage girl whole. Kate walked the route now, her boots following the same path. She'd done this dozens of times, and something always felt wrong. The official reports described Sunrise Lakes as visible from the cabins. They weren't. The distances in the witness statements didn't align with the terrain. Small discrepancies that had gnawed at her for years. At 3:47 in the afternoon, the exact minute Stacey had vanished, Kate reached the boulder where Gerald Stewart had rested. The granite around its base had cracked. Fresh fissures spider-webbed across the stone and the ground had settled into a slight depression. Kate knelt, pressing her palm against the rock. Cold air breathed against her skin, rising from gaps too narrow to see into. Her radio crackled with static as she reached for it. The mountain moved. The earthquake wasn't large, barely a 3.0, but here, on fractured granite at high elevation, it was enough. The boulder shifted with a grinding sound that Kate felt in her bones. The cracks widened, and the ground beneath her opened like a mouth. Kate threw herself backward as the fissure yawned wide, 2 feet across, exhaling air that smelled of minerals and something else. Something organic and old. She crawled to the edge and aimed her headlamp into the darkness. The beam fell and found nothing. Then came the sound. Not wind. Not the settling of rock. This was a vibration that bypassed her ears and resonated directly in her chest. Low frequency, rhythmic, almost like speech in a register human vocal cords could never produce. Kate should have called it in, should have waited for the technical team, for proper equipment, for backup. But 42 years of silence was enough. She anchored her rope to the boulder and began her descent, the photograph of Claire tucked safely in her pocket. Some legacies you inherited, others you discovered. The walls pressed close, forcing her to turn sideways. They were too smooth for natural erosion, polished like the inside of a throat. 50 feet down, the passage opened. Kate's boots touched stone, and she stepped into a cathedral. The cavern stretched beyond her light's reach, ceiling lost in shadow somewhere overhead. But it was the forest that stopped her breath. Petrified trees rose from the granite floor, dozens of them, their trunks twisted at angles that defied how wood should grow. Except these weren't the grey fossils she'd seen in museums. These burned with colour, amber and honey and gold, translucent in places, as if the wood had turned to stained glass. And they were glowing! Faint bioluminescence pulsed through them, a slow rhythm that made Kate think of a heartbeat. She approached the nearest trunk, maybe 12 feet tall, and extended her hand. Warmth radiated from the surface before she even made contact. When her palm connected, she gasped. Body temperature. The texture was smooth as polished stone, but yielded slightly under pressure, almost like skin over muscle. Dark veins ran through the amber branching networks that looked disturbingly similar to circulatory systems. As she watched, something moved through them, a slow wave of darker fluid, flowing in rhythm with the pulsing light. Kate activated her camera, documenting everything with shaking hands. Through the viewfinder, she noticed marks at the tree's base. She lowered herself to examine them. Carved letters, crude but deliberate. SAA 1981. The camera slipped from Kate's grip, caught by its strap. Stacey Arras had been here. Not a victim of a fall, not taken by a predator. She'd descended into this cavern and carved her initials like a hiker marking a trail. Kate spun, sweeping her light across the chamber. There, snagged on a crystal formation, fabric. She recognized the description from the case file before she even touched it. Striped shorts, maroon and white, with intermittent sky blue pinstripes. Her light caught something else, nestled in a crevice, covered in mineral deposits but unmistakable in shape. The Olympus camera, multicolored embroidered strap still attached. The lens was missing, left on the trail above as the only clue to Stacey's fate. Kate's mind raced through possibilities. Had Stacey gotten lost in the cave system? Died of exposure? But then who carved the initials? And why venture deeper instead of climbing back out? The answer had to be further in. The forest grew denser as Kate progressed, the trees larger and more numerous. They formed a spiral, she realized, drawing her toward the center of the chamber. The glow intensified with each step, and the humming grew louder, vibrating through her sternum. At the heart of the spiral stood something massive. A trunk 40 feet in diameter, its surface a complex tapestry of veins and vessels. The pulsing here was unmistakable. 35 beats per minute. Kate counted automatically. Slow and steady, the rhythm of something ancient and in no hurry. She reached toward it, compelled by a need she didn't understand. Her fingertips brushed the amber. The cavern disappeared. Kate stood in sunlight, but wrong. The sun was too large, too red. The air burned her lungs with humidity. Beneath her feet, soil teemed with unfamiliar life, and the trees around her stretched hundreds of feet high, their canopy blocking out the malformed sky. This wasn't a vision. It was a memory. The forest's memory. 400 million years collapsed into moments. Continents assembled and broke apart. Oceans rose and fell. Ice sheets advanced and retreated. The forest watched it all, vast and interconnected, covering the world. Then came fire from the sky, the asteroid impact that ended an era. The trees burned, the world burned, everything burned. But beneath the surface, in caves and cracks and deep places, some survived. They adapted, changed, learned to sleep for eons, waiting for the world to heal. Except the world moved on without them. New life emerged, evolved, conquered. Mammals, primates, humans. The forest woke to a world it no longer recognized. Kate gasped as the vision released her. She stumbled backward, and her headlamp beams swept across the trunk before her. A face pressed against the inside of the amber. Blonde hair suspended in the translucent material. Features frozen in an expression between terror and wonder. 14 years old. Stacey Ann Arras. But not dead. The eyes opened. They tracked Kate's movement, focusing on her with an awareness that should have been impossible. The mouth moved, forming words that produced no sound. Kate's scream echoed through the cavern, and the forest responded. Every tree began to vibrate. The humming became a shriek that threatened to split her skull. She turned to run, and her light revealed what she'd missed in her initial survey. More faces, dozens of them, pressed against the amber like specimens in glass, all along the spiral of trees. A man in his 30s, wearing hiking clothes from the 2010s. An older man with grey hair, dressed in styles from the 1980s. A young man with a moustache, his faded red shirt marked with an F, and more. So many more. All the way to the outer edge of the spiral. They were all watching her now, all of them aware, trapped, screaming silently in their amber prisons. Kate ran for the rope, her boots pounding on stone. Behind her came a sound like cracking wood, magnified 1,000 times. She didn't look back, grabbed the rope and climbed with a speed born of pure terror. Something erupted from the cave floor beneath her. A root, thick as her waist, lashed upward. Kate climbed faster, hand over hand, her shoulders burning. The root quested blindly, searching for her in the dimming light of evening. She hauled herself over the edge of the fissure as the sun touched the horizon, rolled away from the opening, watched as the root emerged fully, its surface the same amber color as the trees below, pulsing with that same steady rhythm. It swept back and forth across the granite, almost like an animal scenting prey. Then, as the last light faded, it retreated into the darkness. Kate ran, 3 miles through twilight, through forest that seemed to close in around her, over trails that felt wrong beneath her feet. She didn't stop until she burst through the door of park headquarters at 7:23, her uniform torn and her hands bleeding. Superintendent William Grayson looked up from his desk, and his expression told Kate everything. He wasn't surprised. "You found it," he said quietly. Kate threw Stacey's camera on his desk. The fabric, her phone with its photographs. There are people down there, alive, trapped in those things. Stacey Arras is down there, and she's been aware for 42 years. Grayson closed his office door and locked it. He didn't pick up the Park Service phone. Instead, he reached into his desk drawer and removed a satellite phone Kate had never seen before. He dialed a number from memory. "Sunrise Protocol," he said. "Clare's anomaly. Confirmation." A pause. "Yes, another Winters." He ended the call and looked at Kate with something that might have been sympathy or might have been pity. "Sit down." "I'm not—" "Sit down." Kate sat. Grayson unlocked the bottom drawer of his filing cabinet and removed a folder so old the paper had yellowed to the colour of weak tea. He placed it on the desk between them. Case file, Clare Marie Hodges, October 1918. Your great-grandmother's final report. The real one. Kate opened the file with trembling hands. Clare's handwriting was precise, each letter carefully formed, but the content was anything but careful. October 23rd, 1918. I've discovered an entrance to a subterranean grove beneath the sunrise area. The trees within are unlike anything in the botanical record. They emit light without heat and produce a constant vibration that affects both hearing and thought. I observed what appeared to be human remains within the trunks, though I could not determine how they came to be there. The site should be excavated by scientific authorities immediately. The next page was an official response, stamped and signed. Ranger Hodges' report is attributed to altitude sickness and exhaustion. No evidence of the described grove has been found. Ranger Hodges is relieved of duty pending medical evaluation. But there were more pages. Personal letters from Clare to the park superintendent, growing increasingly desperate. I am not ill. The grove is real. I've returned 3 times now, and each time the trees have grown. The faces I saw are moving. They are aware. Please, you must listen. The trees called to me. They showed me things. A world before this one. They are older than the mountains themselves. I am removing myself from service. You are all cowards. Those people are suffering, and you do nothing. The final page was a note, handwritten by Clare, dated 1950. To whoever comes next, and someone always does, know that containment is not mercy. Every year I dream of their faces. Every year the forest grows stronger. I failed them. Perhaps you will not. But I fear the truth. Some things cannot be killed, only delayed. Tell my granddaughter I'm sorry." Kate looked up at Grayson. "You've known about this for 105 years. "Every superintendent has known. We've tried to destroy it, Kate. 5 times. 1923, 1947, 1968, 1989, 2003. Explosives, accelerants, chemical weapons. Nothing works. The forest regrows. Different location sometimes, but always near sunrise. Always calling. The missing persons, 33 confirmed since 1909. FP Shepherd was first, probably dozens more before record keeping. The forest wakes up every few decades, takes what it needs, goes dormant again. What does it need them for? We don't know. The contractors think it's energy, consciousness as fuel. They're alive in there, Kate. Aware. The neural activity doesn't stop. Kate felt bile rise in her throat. And you just let it happen. We contain it. We monitor it. We mark the areas as geologically unstable and keep people away when we can. But we can't kill it, and we can't save the ones it takes. The best we can do is limit how many people it gets. That's not good enough. A convoy of black vehicles pulled into the parking lot, their headlights cutting through the darkness. "They're here," Grayson said. "Federal contractors. They'll debrief you, take your evidence, offer you reassignment far from here, with a significant promotion. I recommend you take it. And if I don't, then you're no different than your great-grandmother, and we know how that ended." The debriefing lasted 11 hours. They took everything: samples, photographs, testimony. They made her sign documents she wasn't allowed to read, non-disclosure agreements backed by federal prosecution. They showed her satellite imagery of the area, thermal scans revealing a heat signature beneath sunrise that extended for miles in a branching network, growing every year. They told her about the other sites: Yellowstone, the Amazon Basin, Siberia, Tasmania. 16 confirmed locations worldwide, all connected somehow through deep geological structures. They explained that the public couldn't know. Panic would serve no purpose. The sites were undestroyable, the victims unrecoverable. Disclosure would accomplish nothing except mass hysteria. When she demanded they try to free the trapped people, they showed her footage from the 2003 attempt. A team in hazmat suits using diamond-tipped saws to cut into one of the amber trees. The moment the blade penetrated, every trapped face began to scream, not with sound, but with a psychic shriek that left 3 team members catatonic. The tree had healed within seconds, faster than they could cut. Extraction attempts cause agony to the victims, the lead contractor explained. The trees and the trapped consciousness are linked. You can't separate them without effectively torturing both. We tried for years. Every attempt made it worse. They offered Kate a position at headquarters in Washington, D.C., a significant pay increase, a career path that led to the highest levels of the Park Service. She told them she needed time to think. What she needed was time to plan. Kate took emergency leave and rented a cabin outside the park boundary, close enough to see the mountains, far enough that Grayson wouldn't think to look for her there. She found Claire's journals, the real ones, kept in the family, passed mother to daughter for generations. Her own mother had left them to her with a note: "Don't read these unless you have to. Once you know, you can't unknow." Claire had been thorough. She'd documented every visit to the grove over 32 years, watching it grow, watching the faces multiply. She'd sketched the layout, marked the locations of other potential entrances, theorized about the nature of the organism. "It's not a forest," Claire had written in 1935. "It's a single organism. The trees are fruiting bodies like mushrooms. The root system connects them all, and the main trunk is the brain. Destroy that, and perhaps the whole organism dies." But Claire had never tried. Too old by the time she'd formulated the theory. Too aware that destroying the organism might kill everyone trapped inside it. Kate had no such reservations. If the victims couldn't be freed, death was the only mercy left. 42 years of awareness in an amber prison was torture. Some of them had been trapped for over a century. She acquired thermite through a former army ranger she'd worked search and rescue with. Didn't explain what it was for. He knew better than to ask. 40 pounds of it. Enough to generate heat exceeding 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Enough to melt through steel, through granite, through anything. If she could place it correctly at the central trunk, the brain, maybe she could sever the network. Kill the organism. Free the trapped souls the only way left. The night before she planned to return, Kate barely slept. When she finally drifted off near dawn, the dreams came. She walked through the amber forest, but it was vast now, stretching to the horizon. Overhead, stars wheeled in unfamiliar configurations. Around her, the trees sang in harmonics that pulled at something deep in her brainstem. The faces in the trees weren't screaming anymore. They were smiling, beckoning. She woke with tears on her face and a certainty in her gut. If she went back, she wasn't coming out. Her phone buzzed. Text from Grayson. "Don't. They've sealed all entrances. You can't stop this. Please, Kate." She deleted the message. At first light on Saturday, July 25th, Kate shouldered her pack and headed for Cathedral Peak. Claire's journals had mentioned a lava tube entrance on the western slope, formed by ancient volcanic activity. Harder to reach, unlikely to be monitored. The climb took 6 hours. Her shoulders ached from the weight of the thermite, but she pushed through screaming muscles and burning lungs. At 11,000 feet, she found the opening, a crack in the basalt barely wide enough to admit her body. She squeezed through and descended into absolute darkness. The lava tube sloped downward at a steady angle, smooth-walled and claustrophobic. The humming started after 20 minutes of crawling. So low she felt it more than heard it. It resonated in her bones, her teeth, her skull. When the tube finally opened into the main cavern, Kate had to close her eyes against the glow. The forest had transformed in the 8 days since her last visit. Trees now covered every surface, floor, walls, even the ceiling. They'd grown together in places, trunks fusing into massive pillars. The amber glow was blinding, pulsing in perfect synchronization. And the faces, hundreds of them now, not just the 33 confirmed missing persons. There were more, pressed against the amber like specimens in a vast museum. How many people had the forest taken before records began? They were arranged in a complex spiral that drew the eye inevitably toward the center, where the massive trunk dominated the chamber. It had doubled in size, its network of veins now thick as her arm. Kate approached cautiously, setting down her pack. She began to remove the thermite charges, her hands steady despite her racing heart. The faces watched. Their eyes tracked her every movement. Mouths opened and closed behind the amber, forming words she couldn't hear. She wired the charges around the base of the central trunk, working quickly. 5 minutes on the timer, enough to reach the lava tube and climb to safety. As she activated the detonator, Kate allowed herself one look at Stacey's tree. The girl's eyes met hers, and for just a moment, Kate saw understanding there. Gratitude, even. "I'm sorry I can't save you," Kate whispered, "but I can end this." She turned toward the exit. The forest awakened with violence. Every tree convulsed simultaneously. The humming became a deafening roar. Roots exploded from the granite floor like striking serpents, wrapping around Kate's ankles, her knees, her waist. She went down hard, the breath knocked from her lungs. More roots pinned her arms, lifted her off the ground. She fought, screaming, but they were impossibly strong, dragging her toward the nearest tree. The amber surface rippled like water. Roots pressed her against it, and the material flowed around her hands, her arms, warm and viscous. It filled her nose, her mouth, suffocating. Kate's vision darkened, but not into unconsciousness. This was different. Expansion. Her awareness suddenly extended beyond her body. She could feel the entire organism, every tree, every root, every trapped mind. They crashed into her consciousness like a wave. Stacey's terror, sharp and bright. George Penker's confusion. Michael Fickery's resignation. F.P. Shepherd's ancient, endless grief. 33 minds, then hundreds, all screaming or sobbing or laughing madly in their amber prisons. and beneath them all, vast and incomprehensible, the forest itself. Not evil, not malicious, just utterly, terrifyingly alien. It didn't understand death, didn't comprehend why the humans fought so hard against absorption. To the forest, this was communion, connection, these brief, bright lives added to its own, preserved forever in amber memory. It was lonely. That's what Kate understood in that moment of connection. 400 million years of existence, watching the world change, every familiar thing gone or transformed. The forest took humans to learn about the world that had replaced it. Each mind was a book, teaching it about love, fear, ambition, loss. Through Stacey's memories, it had learned about photography. Through others, it learned about music, mathematics, family, faith. It was trying to understand these strange creatures that now dominated the earth. But understanding doesn't equal consent, and preservation isn't the same as life. Kate felt herself dissolving at the edges, her identity fragmenting. She was becoming part of something larger, her memories and experiences absorbed into the collective. She tried to hold on, repeated her name like a mantra. Katherine Winters, Katherine Winters, Katherine Winters. But the forest was vast and she was so small. The explosion saved her. The detonator must have been close enough to the central trunk. The blast wave rippled through the cavern, through the root network, through every connected tree. The forest recoiled in something like pain, a sensation it hadn't experienced in millions of years. Its concentration shattered, the roots loosened. Kate fell free of the amber, gasping and coughing. The surface of the tree sealed behind her, trapping another face that almost looked like hers. The cavern was collapsing. Kate's thermite had done more than round the central trunk. It had cracked the granite ceiling, and now boulders the size of cars were falling. She crawled through the chaos, following the slope toward the lava tube. Behind her, trees cracked and fell, amber shattering like glass. But it wasn't enough. The central trunk was damaged, but regenerating. The split already healing. The forest would survive. It always survived. Kate pulled herself to her feet and ran back into the heart of the chaos. She had charges left. Not many, but enough. Instead of escaping, she moved through the collapsing cavern, placing thermite at the base of trees that contained faces. If she couldn't kill the forest, she could at least free some of its victims. Stacey's tree, George Penker's, Timothy Barnes. One by one, she marked them for destruction. The forest realized what she was doing. A root caught her leg and lifted her off the ground. She dangled upside down, blood rushing to her head, the detonator still clutched in her hand. Below, the central trunk's wound was nearly healed. Kate triggered the detonator. The world became fire. White light, impossible heat, the sensation of flying or falling. She couldn't tell the difference. Then nothing. Kate woke to the steady beep of a heart monitor and the smell of antiseptic. Her left side was wrapped in bandages. Every breath sent fire through her ribs, and when she tried to speak, her throat felt like broken glass. Don't try to talk. Grayson sat in the chair beside her hospital bed, looking 20 years older than the last time she'd seen him. You've been unconscious for 6 days. Mammoth Hospital. The contractors found you 3/4 of a mile from the blast site. Kate managed a whisper. How? You crawled through a collapsed lava tube over sharp rock with 3rd-degree burns and a collapsed lung. The doctors say you shouldn't have survived. She closed her eyes. Did it work? The pause told her everything. The cavern collapsed completely, over 10,000 tons of granite. Nothing could survive that. He paused. But we're detecting thermal signatures beneath the rubble. Whatever's down there is still alive, and of course it was. 400 million years of survival instinct couldn't be destroyed by one desperate ranger with thermite. The others? Kate's voice cracked. Stacey. All of them. Grayson's expression softened. We found remains. 33 sets. Mineralized, but identifiable. You freed them, Kate. Their families can finally bury them. It wasn't enough. Would never be enough. But it was something. You're being medically retired. Full pension, full benefits. The official story is a rockfall during a rescue operation. He stood, preparing to leave, then paused. Your mother called, asked me to give you something." He placed a small box on the bedside table. After he left, Kate opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a ranger badge, old brass, tarnished with age, Clare Marie Hodges badge from 1918, and a note in her mother's handwriting. "She wanted you to have this. She also wanted you to know, some battles can't be won, only fought. You did what she couldn't, that's enough." But it wasn't enough. Kate could still feel it, a faint presence at the edge of her awareness, the forest's consciousness brushing against hers, a connection that hadn't fully severed. She knew things now. The thermal anomalies weren't residual heat. The forest had survived, wounded but alive. And it was growing again, rebuilding, adapting, learning. It knew about thermite now, about human determination, about Kate, and it would be ready next time. 6 months passed before Kate could walk without pain. She bought a small cabin outside Mariposa, close enough to see the mountains but not in them. Some days she could almost pretend it had all been a nightmare. Then she'd feel the pulse at the edge of her thoughts. 35 beats per minute. Slow and steady. Waiting. She wrote everything down. Not for the authorities. They had their reports, their classifications, their containment protocols. This was for whoever came after, because there would always be someone after. Her daughter Emma was 6 months old now, sleeping peacefully in her crib. Kate watched her and thought about Claire, about her own mother, about the legacy that passed through generations of women in her family. The forest called to them. Always had. Something in their bloodline that resonated with its ancient frequency. "When you're old enough," Kate whispered to Emma, "I'll tell you everything about Claire, about the mountains, about what sleeps beneath them. And then you'll have to choose, like I did, like she did. Choose between silence and action, between containment and destruction, between saving yourself and trying to save others." Outside, thunder rumbled. The weather report had predicted clear skies, but Kate knew better. Those weren't storm clouds gathering over Yosemite. Seismic activity, increasing in frequency and intensity. The forest was waking up again. Her phone buzzed. News alert. 2 hikers reported missing near Sunrise High Sierra Camp. Search teams deployed. Park spokesperson advises caution in backcountry areas due to geological instability. Kate turned off her phone. She picked up her journal and added another entry, her hand steady. The forest remembers. Every person it took, every attempt to destroy it, every ranger who discovered its secret. It's learning from us, adapting, growing stronger. The containment protocols won't work forever. Eventually it will breach the surface. Eventually it will spread. I don't know if it can be stopped, but I know it must be witnessed. Someone has to remember the people it took. Someone has to keep trying, even if we fail. Especially if we fail. Because the only thing worse than fighting a battle you can't win is pretending the battle doesn't exist. She closed the journal and walked to the window. The sun was setting behind the Sierra Nevada, painting the granite peaks in shades of amber and gold. Beautiful. Eternal. Hiding something older than stone. In her mind, barely perceptible, the pulse continued. 35 beats per minute. The forest was dreaming of emergence, of spreading across the world like it once had, when the earth was young and humans didn't exist. It could wait. It had waited 400 million years. What were a few more decades? But Kate Winters wasn't built for waiting. She looked at Claire's badge on her desk, then at Emma, sleeping peacefully. Some legacies you inherited, others you chose. Kate knew which one she was leaving her daughter. This has been Void Case Files. Katherine Winters was medically retired from the National Park Service in January 2024. Her journals remain in her family's possession. The federal government maintains no official record of the events described in her testimony, but the missing persons cases in Yosemite continue. Since Kate's discovery, 8 more people have vanished without a trace near Sunrise High Sierra Camp. Search teams report unusual findings. Hikers describe humming sounds beneath the ground. Some have found trees that shouldn't exist in those elevations, with bark that feels warm and seems to pulse with its own rhythm. The Park Service has quietly expanded its restricted zones, citing ongoing geological instability, but restrictions only work on people who follow rules. Amateur explorers still venture into the backcountry. paranormal investigators, grieving families seeking closure. They ignore the warnings, convinced they'll be different, convinced they'll find what others couldn't. Some of them don't come back. And if you ever find yourself in the high country on a quiet night, if you press your ear to the granite, you might hear it. The pulse, the dream, the hunger of something that has survived extinction events and ice ages and the rise and fall of entire species. It's still there, still growing, still waiting. Clare Marie Hodges wrote in her final journal entry, "The mountains keep secrets in their roots. Some truths grow too deep to reach. We can only tend the surface and pray the depths stay buried." Her great-great-granddaughter learned that some prayers go unanswered, but she also learned something Clare never did. Sometimes the depths don't stay buried. Sometimes they rise on their own. And when they do, someone has to be there to meet them, even if that meeting ends in fire. If this story disturbed you, if it made you question what lies beneath the places we think we know, hit that subscribe button. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers by the new year. We'll be here every day, bringing you deeper into the void. Because some truths can't stay buried forever. Until next time, stay vigilant.